And Mackie was going to introduce our speaker for today.
Hey, thank you, Dick. Oh yeah, making sure I was not on mute. So hello, folks, and thank you for participating in our 30th anniversary celebration and for all of your kind remarks. I know it's a gorgeous day outside today and you guys are in front of your computer screen, so your attendance is truly appreciated. We were to have Michael Jefferys, Mayor of Newmarket from UK among us, but things happened. Nonetheless, our Mayor Taylor did reach out to him, and it's great to see a friendship develop between our two towns. This is taking Provost Fellowship and friendship really to the next level. Before introducing Mayor Taylor, quick reminder to please ask your questions using the chat function and mute your mic during the presentation. Now it is my extreme pleasure to welcome Mayor Taylor as our special keynote speaker. He was actually originally scheduled for May 2020. We rescheduled him for 1 year later so he could bring his greetings to us in person on this special day. Little did we know we would still be holding meetings on Zoom. I know you're all eager to hear Mayor speak, so I will dispense with the usual bio. I'm still privileged to have known the Mayor for a while, and it's no secret that he lives and breathes Newmarket. He deeply cares about the community and is very engaged with happenings around the town. He has great plans for our town, and let's hear what he has to share with us. Mayor Taylor, welcome to the Provost Club.
Thank you very much, Naki. It's great to be here. It's been delayed a little, but it's wonderful to be here, even on Zoom, and especially for this incredibly important occasion. I also would like to just recognize the Provost Club. 30 years is a long time, and it's a lot of effort organizing and ensuring the continuation of your efforts to continue to provide fellowship and learning opportunities to each other with all of the key speakers you've had. And it's just a great resource in the town of Newmarket for so many people to be able to join and be a part of something like this, of great conversations and great friendships. And so formally on your 30th anniversary, I congratulate you. And of course, specifically Al Roeder and Art Craig and Glenn Henderson and Charlie Williams for their long time contributions. It's just a pleasure to be here, and a congratulations to you. And particularly, I have to say, I was just pleased and proud to hear of the role that Newmarket's playing in sharing best practices information with other organizations in the country, and leading and being a part of leading a global forum for discussions and conversations. So just really incredible. Newmarket never ceases to surprise me, and the Newmarket Provost Club is an obvious example of that outstanding effort and comradeship. So with that, I think what I'll do is I'll jump right into my presentation. I did present once many years ago. Some of you may remember it. And if you remember my style, my approach is I like to cover a lot of information, pack a lot of information, and move fairly quickly. So I'll warn you now. It's probably close to 30 minutes in length. I'm going to basically go and look at a little bit of introduction of COVID, where we're at, what things look like right now, some of the work we've done to support the community and to work as a community through COVID, and some of the work that lies ahead. And then I'm going to pivot into a little bit about the need to continue to, we're a corporation, the town of Newmarket, and as a corporation, we have to continue to be forward focused. We have to be moving other agendas forward and make sure we're building an outstanding community for the future, and not entirely consumed by COVID, which is easy to do on many days. So it's going to be, so I'll look at some themes about moving forward towards the end as well. And then I've got a few surprise slides at the end that hopefully everybody will find a little interesting and entertaining. So I will need to share my screen at this point, and I will attempt to do that. Here comes a test of my technological abilities. Let's see how we do. All right, can somebody let me know if they can see that? Can you see my screen?
Yes.
It's working good, Mayor.
Okay, and I think, well, there must be some way for me to get onto full screen, but I'll just do this instead.
You can go up in the little square in the top right-hand corner.
There, thank you. Okay, so, and I'm going to minimize this a bit. Okay, I'm good to go. Okay, so wanted to, as I said, cover quite a bit today, so I'll get right into it. But this is, you know, a presentation I wanted to make the Men's Probus Club on this very special occasion, and hopefully it's of interest to everybody. I want to start by recognizing an outstanding council. I am very fortunate to work with a group of councillors who are very committed to the town, work very hard, are very professional, and work very collegially. And I can tell you it's an immense pleasure, because it's just it's a high functioning group of people who are have put ego aside and worked together to try to make Newmarket as best as it possibly can be. And so I just wanted to share that. That's actually on the steps of the Mulock House, on the side steps, and we'll come back to that later. So I also want to start by thanking our town staff. What they've been through in this through this past year and a bit through COVID has been nothing short of outstanding. I could tell you many tales of how they've had to change what they do, how they do it, pivot, take on completely new responsibilities and new job descriptions. You know, and some of those obvious ones are you know, dealing with supporting a homeless population that's sometimes doesn't have the services they had, right over to helping to administer and run a vaccination center and support other areas. So it's been a year that the town has never seen anything close to, but our staff have done an exceptional job once again about supporting the community and putting the community first. So where are we at right now? These are the, you know, the COVID numbers I'm going to just touch on. This is just really a giant overview of a chart that would look not dissimilar for York Region or Ontario. You know, we know there's been 3 waves. When this started back in March, and a few of you might recall, I got tested in March. I got quite ill, and at that time, you know, everybody was getting tested for, and still hopefully are, but when needed. But I was in and got tested. It was negative, thank goodness, and that was our first wave, and it was overwhelming. It overwhelmed many people, many businesses, and certainly it was very challenging for the town of Newmarket. But look at that in comparison to where we are, the second wave and the third wave. So we're into a very challenging time right now. You can see there's clear signs of improvement. The numbers are doing what they need to do. In fact, yesterday the region's numbers hit an all-time low during the third wave of under 100 cases. And that was very exciting to see. And Newmarket had only 5. Now that's, you know, may be a little bit up tomorrow, but in general, the trend line is going down significantly, and the vaccinations are going up significantly. So, you know, you can see here those numbers I was talking about that were so exciting to see this morning, that 90 and 5. But active cases in the region, about 1,159, and in Newmarket, 110. And the active cases per 100,000, York Region, 98. That is crucial. Dr. Kurji has said all along, if we can get below 100, we can start to talk about the possibility of reopening. And so he's saying between 50 and 100, so we're just under 100 on one day. So I don't think we're quite there. But the first steps to reopening look like, if we can all stay vigilant and the numbers continue to do what they're doing and people continue to get vaccinated, I think it's realistic that the June 2nd a date that the province has set is realistic to see some loosening of restrictions, because these numbers are starting to be very encouraging. I would point to you the R value. That is the most important probably stat you can follow of all the stats, and I could have put up 8 slides of endless stats, but the R value, basically, for those who don't know, it's the reproductive value. If it's at 1, that means for every case that arises, another case will arise. It will produce another case. If it's at 1.2, it will for every case you'll have 1.2, and you will see cases climb dramatically, even at something as small as 1.2. If it's at 0.92, that means one case doesn't produce another case fully, which means the numbers will come down. And if you can get that down even a little lower, that R value, the cases will come down quite quickly and quite dramatically. And we're seeing a little bit of that now. So that R value is crucial to keep below 1. So where are we at with the vaccinations? Well, we're doing extremely well. We know that the vaccine is now rolling in very rapidly, and I want to thank Tony and the federal government for the efforts to really accelerate and get the vaccines to the provinces and now into to the local health units. So York Region is a board of health or a local health unit, and I sit on that as a member of regional council. And you can see here that high vaccination rates amongst people who are 65 and up, and it shows the potential for us to get very strong vaccination numbers with much lower vaccine hesitancy or resistance than we see in the United States. In fact, we have now surpassed the United States for first doses administered, and I would argue that first dose is probably a more important and encouraging stat than second dose, even though you'll see some people online saying, well, but we have far less second doses. First doses cover you significantly in terms of protection, and more importantly, it indicates the number of people who will be getting a second dose, which is very important. So York Region is doing exceptionally well. We're at about 63.4% vaccinated of those over 18. We'll hit 65 this week easily. It's really, I think, a very good news story we're experiencing right now, and it should help to keep bringing those numbers down. York Region's response to this has been very significant. I've had some people, of course, contact me, and fair enough, and say, something went wrong at the testing or at the vaccination center, and that didn't make sense, or they issued this and something didn't work, and we make corrections, right? We had a bumpy day early on at the vaccination center, and there was long lineups, and it would only happen for one day, but mistakes happen. But what I'd say to you is, I know there's a number of business people on here. Imagine your business growing exponentially in 1 year and not having some errors or some learning taking place. York Region Public Health went from 75 staff to almost 1,000 staff. Now imagine any company adding that level of growth and staffing and not having some challenges and issues, especially as you're training people and bringing them on. And so I think actually public health has done an exceptional job to ramp up this significantly and relatively roll out an incredible vaccination process, for example, and testing, et cetera. So their contact tracking and tracing still very important. A huge public education campaign. We've got an isolation center for York Region residents who can't isolate at home. We've got an isolation center for people experiencing homelessness. And we've got business support programs that are taking place at York Region. And for those of you who don't know, if you're listening from another location, here we're a two-tier government. So Newmarket's the lower tier, and the upper tier is York Region. As mayor, I sit on both councils. And Newmarket is approximately 90,000 people. York Region is approximately 1.2 million people. Now, obviously, part of the COVID response is South Lake Regional Health Center, our outstanding and most important asset in the community, partnering with the town of Newmarket to provide some very important responses during COVID. A Newmarket Seniors Meeting Place, you see on the top left, is the testing center. And I have been there, and I've had my children there. And it continues to test people on a daily basis. And we hope we can get this back in use for seniors into the fall. But right now, it's providing a very important service. At the bottom slides, you can see the vaccination center at Ray 20. The town of Newmarket runs the front of the house, as you might call it, and South Lake runs the inside of the house, or the testing area. And so we partner with them, and we see everybody through the process. It runs extremely smoothly. No one waits almost at all, frankly. You're in, and we recently this week even switched the rinks where you get vaccinated so it can be in an air-conditioned space as the weather starts to heat up. But I can tell you this week, 2 days ago, together, South Lake and Newmarket hit the milestone of having vaccinated 100,000 people in the Ray 20 Center, which is absolutely phenomenal. The town of Newmarket's response to COVID has covered so many territories. We've introduced some really innovative programs, like a business assistance concierge program. So any business could call up, and our experts, or those at the chamber who we partner with on many of these efforts, would provide people with insights and directions to the many various programs and supports available, federal, provincial, anywhere, and other opportunities. We introduced a mentorship access program that I promoted, and that was basically taking seasoned professional CEO suite or entrepreneurs or people with long executive or business experience, and partnering them with businesses that were relatively new and were hit sideways with COVID, to just have somebody to talk to and to mentor them and and slow them down and say, okay, let's ask some questions about where you're at. That decision you're about to make, let's talk through that. Very, very valuable. And of course, a Choose Local program that's been I've had businesses walk up to me and say they believe that the strength of the Choose Local program, both by the Chamber, the town, and the BIA, has been crucial to their survival. Obviously, there's financial support programs at every level of government, and for sure, the federal level does the heavy lifting, provincial also. But we've wanted to do what we can do. We had a no penalty and interest on unpaid property taxes for about a year. We've now tried to target that so it's not going to and supporting those who don't need it, but those who do need it. And so the targeting the elderly and the water, wastewater, and tax has been a big area. And then the one that I was very passionate about was targeting small businesses. So instead of having a tiny break of $20 or $30 per household, when 75% of all of homeowners actually have not experienced financial hardship through COVID, we took that pool of money and targeted at small businesses and gave a meaningful break of $1,000 per small business through water, wastewater. And that's been very helpful. And then many other things we've done, like 30-minute curbside parking in the downtown. 2 hours isn't necessary. Let's turn the cars over. Let's let those stores and people curbside shop or pick up food. And we've established some financial tools to do that, including our COVID reserve fund. The patio program has been very significant. I hope to see it up and running. I hope to be sitting in one of those within 30 days. That's my hope and my dream. But the town has put all of these in. We've allowed them where they're not normally allowed. We've built them. We've done whatever we can to keep our restaurants afloat and get revenue in their door in those shoulder periods when they can't have any or many people indoors. A very successful program as well. And actually, it's one of those examples of where you kind of go, what have we learned through COVID that we might want to look at longer term? And this has brought some energy and life to the downtown when energy and life is allowed and was allowed, and will again soon be allowed. And then, of course, there's this area that I really focused on early in the pandemic, and it's so important. And I saw it, frankly, and picked up on it through my inbox and through Facebook and through social media. And that was that people were struggling to stay positive. They were some people were experiencing extreme hardship through COVID, whether it was health related or financially related. And, I thought we need to really consciously and thoughtfully address this. And so we did some things, supported any group organization that wanted to work to give back. And so you see the collective of volunteers creating PPE over in the Hollingsworth Arena on the top left. And we recognized first responders. That bottom picture there we recognized 2020 as the honorary citizen was frontline workers and first responders. And we had a number of representatives. The person pulling the banner off there is an employee of a long-term care center who experienced a very disturbing number of deaths, and it was exceptionally hard on those workers. And we went one step further, and our office coordinated through some local businesses, and we sent each long-term care facility in Newmarket staff room a massage chair, just a way of saying thank you, and we appreciate their efforts. A big one was, and a very unique one, frankly, North America, Canada-wide, was introducing the first ever in the town of Newmarket Chief Positivity Officer, an existing employee. Tony will remember him well. He is a bundle of energy and positivity, and he was tasked with keeping our employees and the community to a degree positive and keeping their chins up. And he sends out regular emails and blasts and ideas and events. And also working with some people in this, not just in a sort of an encouraging way, but some people with mental health supports. And then finally, I appointed 50 community positivity ambassadors to work through social media and other means to lift their community up and reach out to people. And again, the community's response of looking out for their neighbors, friends, and family has been nothing short of outstanding through this. And yet, I will say we're still struggling through that time right now. And I can see people, feeling the pressure and the stress and frankly, succumbing to negativity at times. And sometimes you just can't blame people. It's hard what they're going through, but we want to try to support them and to recognize the need to think about mental health. So the economy and COVID, it's been impactful. There's no question about it. We can look at our unemployment rates, Ontario, York, Toronto, you can see them there, very significant increases in unemployment rates. Typically, York region's in around that 5%, 4 to 5% range. And obviously it went right up to almost 14%. and is continuing to be in the 8 to 10 range right now. And obviously that's something we need to address and we will see come down. But remember, we do keep in mind that even with those high unemployment numbers, there was a lot of support programs from the federal and provincial government to try to support those people through that. And we believe and we hope that the economy will come rushing back, but we know that we'll have to be thinking about recovery probably for a year to 2 years at least. And again, another way of looking at it is from a jobs perspective. In York Region, 2020 brought us back to 2016 levels. So 3 years of hard work and effort to grow employment in our region and in our town was largely wiped out in 2020, and we'll see probably similar numbers in 2021. But we believe they will bounce back quickly, and we'll start to see that upward climb again, because the GTA and Newmarket and York Region represent a major part of the GTA, is the fastest growing population center in the United States and Canada combined. So, keep that in mind. From an economic and jobs perspective, we are in a very strong position. Again, the jobs recovery, you can see what happened. So you can see the potential for a very strong recovery, and we're sliding back down now again. But I think the real thing I take from the slide is the good news is look at how quickly it can recover. With the right policies, the right supports, and an incredibly tenacious business community. So that's COVID. That's COVID in the economy. A little bit concerning, maybe even a little bit depressing at times. But we have a very strong future, as I just implied. We live in one of the fastest growing areas the fastest growing area in the United States and Canada. And to put it in perspective for people, it was only a few years ago that the Greater Toronto area as a population center surpassed the Greater Chicago area for population, leaving only New York and Los Angeles as a greater population center. And the growth predictions by all sources predict that in around 2040 or so, to 2050, Toronto will surpass Los Angeles. Now, that is very strong growth and a look into the future, but of course that comes with concerns around managing growth. And I can talk about that in the question and answer period, because it's always a concern and a fair concern. But let's look into the future a bit and plan for the future. Council's strategic priorities that we set for this term, at the core of it is long-term financial sustainability. We're doing a lot of deep dive work into our financial, creating a financial strategy, creating asset replacement, our asset management strategies. They're all in the works. Some are completed. And it's really laying the bedrock for what we want to do to create and to continue to build one of the best communities in Canada. And so we want to create extraordinary places and spaces. We need a good financial basis to do that, right? To have environmental stewardship or vibrancy on Yonge and Mulock, we need a strong financial basis to do that. And so those, you can see our strategic priorities. These will guide us into the future. As we emerge from COVID, we've got to remember what's our strategic priorities and make sure that they guide us forward. And that's going to be a cornerstone of coming out strong, is not coming out spinning, but coming out focused. Also guiding us forward will be our economic development strategy, which has just been completed. It was delayed due to COVID. We have an economic development committee in the town of Newmarket with some incredible business leaders and very, very thoughtful and thought-provoking people who have helped us develop this. And we will use this strategy to guide and focus us moving forward as well. And that's going to hopefully continue us on a trajectory of strong job growth. We've had actually very strong job growth over the last number of years. Now, we're going to see that come down. This only goes to 2019 right now, this chart, but it'll come down 2020, 2021. But we're very positive that we can bring that back, that trajectory, upward trajectory back and get moving forward, especially if we keep focused on our strategic priorities and our strategies that will drive that growth and that success. And again, the fiscal strategy that has been completed this year is the bedrock of it all. It gives us some very good indicators and data points and comparators to other communities, and gives us a guide forward for capital management, reserve management, revenue enhancement, and debt management. And managing those things together, and again, Tony will recall, Bill Hughes at York Region led the region through a process very similar to this. We brought him after he retired. We asked him to come and join our treasurer, who's outstanding, and the two of them worked together to develop this for Newmarket. And we've got a very, very good blueprint going forward, a challenging blueprint, but a very, very good one. And that's going to help us also come out of COVID strong and focused. And then I often like to point out that we continue to try to keep ourselves 8 to 10% below the GTA average for taxes. We want to be competitive. We don't want to overburden our residents, but we want to make sure we're investing in an outstanding community, but we're investing in a disciplined way. And this metric helps to remind us where we would like to be, which is below the GTA average. It is narrowing now, but we are still in that range, and it's challenging, but it's a good metric to have front and center to remind ourselves, and again to keep us focused on what we want to achieve and how we want to achieve it in a balanced manner. Okay, so now looking forward to, there's many areas I could look forward on. I chose 3 in particular that I think deserve attention: housing affordability, development and growth, and recreation community building. Where do we want to be 3, 10, 25 years? That's what we need to ask ourselves as a town and a council all the time. We can't be only thinking about next year or even 3 years from now. We have to be planning long term. That's what higher order rapid transit is planning for the long term. That's what the Mulock Farm is. It's planning for the long term. And that's what our fiscal strategy is. It's planning for the long term. And so we'll just delve into these areas a little bit, and I'll try to keep moving along. But housing affordability, as we know, is getting more and more challenging and more important. As we grow rapidly, I'd like to think that kind of growth would add supply and would bring down housing costs. But the demand is outstripping supply, and we've got other contributing factors that make it challenging. One of those is that sometime in the last decade, Toronto and the GTA was viewed by international investors on the top tier, along with other major cities globally like London, Paris, or New York, and that drove international investors to drive our prices up as well. And so there's so many different things at play that are causing this challenge. But let's put that challenge in perspective. A new single detached house as of 2019 in York Region averaged $1.4 million. And we know that since 2019, prices have gone up close to 30%. I think the most startling and shocking metric is that over the last decade, average family income rose by about 20%, and the average house price rose by about 110%. Those two figures combined tell you that we have a housing affordability crisis in the GTA and in York Region and in Newmarket. About 20% of Newmarket residents and York Region residents rent, 80% own. You will see that change fairly dramatically over the next 20 to 30 years, which means it will be very difficult, if not impossible, to bring enough rental housing options online to satisfy the demand. Quite simply put, a young couple starting out, let's say a plumber and a nurse, both great jobs, both working hard, simply won't be able to afford to own a home. It's that pretty much that simple. Unless they get support from some other place, a family or other means, they won't be able to afford a home in all likelihood. And we will have people with very good jobs, frankly, probably being lifelong renters. And so whether you like it or not, and to put it in perspective, most European cities have over 50% rental. Zurich is 80% renters. But at the end of the day, whatever one feels about it, you have to plan for it. And we need to bring on rental housing. And Newmarket is a leader in this area. And we're in York Region, and we're going to continue down that road because we have to. Housing options for everybody are crucial. So when you talk about housing affordability, it's not one thing. It's not affordable housing. It's housing affordability. So making sure that we have available housing for people experiencing homelessness, emergency shelters, transitional housing, which brings people into either social or affordable rental, all of them. We even have to think about affordable home ownership. So things like asking or requiring builders to build a single family home with an already finished legal basement apartment, which provides revenue, which means that for that young couple, maybe they can get into the housing market because that rental unit in the basement will help them manage their mortgage. We have to think about the full spectrum. Housing York is a big part of that. I chair Housing York, and we have, for the first time ever, stated in our strategic plan document that our stated goal is to double the number of units we build on an annual basis compared to the last decade. And we know it's going to be very challenging. We won't do it without support from other levels of government. The federal government is playing a significant role in this area. And with partners like the federal government, CMHC and others, we hope we can meet this, but it's only one piece of the puzzle. And our wait list for Housing York, the average wait time is about 7 years, and the wait list is about 16,000 households. So very, very challenging there as well. I could go on a lot about this, but we'll keep moving. Development and growth. Look, the simplest I can put it to people is most people don't like growth. They think it's traffic and construction headaches. It is traffic and construction headaches. That's the downside. The upside of growth is without growth, Newmarket, residents in Newmarket, you wouldn't be enjoying the Riverwalk Commons, the Magna Center, the Mulock Farm, South Lakes Cancer Center, and many other key features. Those great amenities come with growth. So growth brings pluses and minuses. I think our job as a town and a council is to try to maximize the upside of growth and minimize the downside. But grow we will. You know, Canada is bringing in high levels of immigration, which is very necessary and very important to our economy and makes our country a richer place. But that means that we're growing, and we're growing quickly. Newmarket is the slowest growing in York Region. We grow at about an average of 1% per year. Some communities grow at 4 and 5 and 6% per year in York Region and the GTA. 1% is very manageable. I can tell you 0% growth. If you want to go look at some communities that have 0 or negative growth, it's not a pretty thing. Local businesses are very challenged by that. And so having a managed level of growth of 1 to 2%, I believe, is actually a positive thing for the local economy, and you can manage it from an infrastructure perspective. You can see the kind of growth that's coming our way, right? So again, I talked about the GTA growth. You know, by just in York Region alone, by 2051, we'll be at 2 million people. That's adding a city of 800,000 people to York Region by 2051. That kind of growth needs a lot of planning, a lot of funding, a lot of infrastructure advance, and that's why we were excited to be able to announce and to thank the federal government and previously the provincial government for the funding for the subway into York Region, Markham, Richmond Hill area. That kind of planning in advance of growth is crucial to managing that growth and minimizing the downside and maximizing the upside. So growth in Newmarket. You can see under construction, we have 435 units in the urban areas. Those are almost all in multi-unit high-rise buildings or mid-rise buildings. Outside of the urban areas, 353 units. But if you look at the number of units on the bottom right-hand corner, number of units to be built, applications pending approval or without allocation but approved are 7,000 people worth. So we have a lot of potential building activity in Newmarket over the next decade or two. We are constrained because of allocation, that's sewage, ability to process sewage, and our major sewage plant has been held up for 5 years at the provincial level, and without that, this growth won't happen. But again, that growth wouldn't happen overnight. What we target is, again, that 1 to 2% range, about 1,000 people per year, or about 300 units per year. We feel that's manageable, and we can get the infrastructure in front of it, but we can support the local economy by in that way. So some of the examples, if you're wondering, there's the Glenway urban towns on the bottom right. That's a very different and new product to Newmarket. That they're coming. Shining Hill is townhomes that are being built right now on Yonge Street. Hollingsworth, I'm sure many of you have heard about. That's well advanced and it has been allocated. 212 Davis is complete. Deerfield right beside it is 2 of the buildings. One is CMHC, federal government supported for housing affordability. They're fully allocated and under construction. And Redwood is fully allocated and is probably going to be in the ground next year. So that's just some examples. For some people that will be exciting, for others that will be daunting. For me, it's both. So finally, really to get to an area that I'm incredibly passionate about, I believe that outstanding communities, and we can learn this from our European partners, that outstanding communities, the bedrock of outstanding communities are shared outdoor public spaces. I've said that sentence many times. I believe it passionately. Shared outdoor public spaces, I believe, are the cornerstone of a great community and a great experience of living in a community. So here you'll see a variety of things. The bottom right-hand corner is the entrance to the 160 acres of pristine forest on the northwest quadrant of Newmarket. The Dave Kerwin Trail runs through there. The environmental park is just beside that. We're adding a beautiful trail this summer through that area as well, and we'll continue to build that out. For those who haven't been there, please go visit. It's just absolutely amazing. Above it is the skate park that's going to be going in right on the front side of the front western corner of the Magna Center. It'll be built this summer, and it's going to be a fantastic amenity for our young people, and it'll be right there at the Magna Center with parking and washrooms inside, and obviously other amenities. And so the other pictures, the bottom left is referring to our continued work on trails and other amenities. The other pictures are of the Mulock Farm, and we'll get into those. So community amenities, I've spoken to most of those, but parks, splash pads, and a skate park will be added this year and next year. And those are important to make sure that people, as they come to our community or live in our community, have better and better options to experience the outdoors with their families. Trail expansions, I like to refer to us as a town of trails, but the Tom Taylor Trail is very, very busy, and we need to provide options to people all over town. And there are many options all over town, but we're going to continue to expand them. One of the most exciting ones on the left-hand side, and we'll be presenting the first look at this to our Newmarket Council, was a strategic priority of this council term, is to build a full multi-use path like the Tom Taylor Trail, the full length of Mulock. It'll take many years to complete like the Tom Taylor Trail did, but this path along Mulock will run from one end of town to the other and connect many, many major features in our town, including our town offices, Newmarket High, the Newmarket Theatre, Magna Center, the Mulock Park, Mulock High School, and many others. So, and it'll intersect with the Tom Taylor Trail. So this is another key trail expansion feature. The Mulock Park is and property is incredibly exciting. I just want to tell you, I have utter confidence and faith that every person that walks onto it when it's complete, their jaws will drop. This will be an incredible amenity. I believe it will be the best park in York Region. I truly believe that. This is going to be about 13 acres plus, closer to 15 acres. Plus, when it's completed, it's going to have a skating trail, a small water feature, skating area. It's going to have boardwalks and trails and gardens, all kinds of amenities, a fire pit, different areas for performances. And of course, at the centerpiece is the Mulock House, a 10,000 square foot heritage house that is an absolute gem. And that work is well underway. The plan is now complete. We're moving into pre-engineering phases and financial modeling. We believe now, massive price tag, I'll admit it, but the price tag to build this park out is going to be about $40 million. We're of course looking for support from other levels of government. So glad that Tony's on the call, and we're speaking to all kinds of other partners. But the key here is that we collect money from every house that's built for the purpose of parks and recreation. That is a commitment, a covenant to spend that money, and you have to by law, for that purpose, but it's not from the tax base, it's from growth. So we need this kind of space to support the growth that's coming, but the growth that's coming will pay for it. So this is not coming from the property taxpayer. So now I just want to close with a look at the two Newmarkets, Newmarket UK and Newmarket Ontario, Canada. So the two Probus clubs, of course, have connected and do the amazing work that they do, providing learning opportunities, fellowship, and friendship in their respective areas. And the two communities are beautiful communities. Look at this startling picture. I think it's quite amazing. Newmarket, United Kingdom, Newmarket, Ontario. You can see such great similarities in those two pictures, and I think that again, you see that use of shared outdoor space where people gather and come together and just enjoy themselves. Both the communities have a clock tower, and there's the Newmarket United Kingdom clock tower and Newmarket Ontario's clock tower, and they're very similar pictures, which we found quite entertaining as well. Helping residents is part of what we do in those communities. I can tell you, the first time I received an email asking how they were possibly going to build something near or beside the clock tower, I think it was our third email exchange with somebody when I finally realized they weren't from Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. That was many years ago. And I've had a few since then. You can see some of them here. wanting me to do something about a pothole near a Burger King, about traffic lights. And I've now gotten used to it, and I explained that I think they're looking for somebody else. But it's a nice way to touch base with our partner, our partner in names in Newmarket, UK. In fact, somebody even wanted to donate £10 to a charity that I help run, the Newmarket Children's Dream. And as tempting as it was, I suggested they probably weren't looking to donate it here to the Newmarket, Ontario, Canada. So with that, I want to close the presentation. I want to congratulate again the Men's Provost Club on 30 successful years of friendship and learning together in our community and making our community a better place by doing that. And I'm happy to take any questions.
Thank you very much, Mayor Taylor, for your greetings and highlighting what your team is really doing to help our community and the businesses in this very difficult time, and also sharing some very exciting long-term plans for our town. Again, I'll remind the audience to please use the chat function to ask any questions to the mayor, and make sure that when you're typing, you're addressing your question to everyone. And we'll pause just a minute for them to roll in. In the meantime, I'll flip over to see if we already have some. Okay, looks like there already are. How would you like to do this, sir? Would you like me to read them, or you want to go ahead and scroll through? Yeah.
I can do it. Sure. Yeah, I can just take them in order if you want. Yeah.
All right.
I will start
the
with
first one is at 10:51 by Richard Furlong. Okay.
Yeah, and I'll start by saying this. I always, I'm sure other people have done this at times and said, so what are the upsides of COVID? One of the upsides of COVID for me is I actually get to read the questions a little bit in advance, and it just gives your mind that extra few seconds to start, getting the answer together. Whereas pre-COVID, you get them, boom, there's the question, and away you go. So this is kind of a nice upside. I get to think a little bit. But yeah, so Richard, the Slessor project in Yonge Street, it was, in my opinion, I don't know if they would look at it that way. I feel it was delayed a little bit because of they were focused on another major project. They had another community, but they are now back fully focused here on this. As we know, this project's been an interesting one. It was a OMB settlement or an OMB decision. It did exceed some of our height restrictions at that time, but it's not that far off of what we allow now at the corner of Yonge and Davis. They're coming in at about 20 stories. It is going to be rental, and that's a good thing. I think it's going to be higher end rental, but again, higher end rental is a form of housing affordability for someone. It really is. Any form of rental is. So somebody looking to downsize, perhaps a retiring senior, they still would like something a little bigger or a little nicer, but that's affordable for them. And without that option, they would be forced to stay perhaps in a house that is unaffordable. But anyway, it is moving forward. I believe they'll be in the ground next year, early next year. And again, it is allocated. And for those who, again, I'll remind you, it's an important term in our world. It means we were able to give them the allocation approval. That means that we have the sewage capacity to support the project. And that in many areas in the province is not an issue. They have the capacity, but in Northern York region in particular, we're probably the most constrained in the GTA for sewage allocation. So it's that's a very important part of the puzzle. So I think you'll see them get started there. I think you'll see it'll take probably at least 2 years before somebody walks in the door from the first dig in the ground. I think that's roughly what we're looking at there. Just as an adjunct to that, across the street from there, that street, by the way, in the next 2 years, Yonge Street from Davis to Green Lane will be completely reconstructed. It will look very much like when it's done like the rest of Yonge Street with the rapid transit, except they won't have the dedicated rapid transit lanes, but you'll get all the bike lanes and the boulevards and the tree plantings and the beautifications, and it'll look quite nice. That'll involve moving the entrance to the Upper Canada Mall in line with the Slessor project. And I believe at some point in the future, in the next 5 years, you'll see a multi-residential building go up on the northeastern corner of the Upper Canada Mall. The Upper Canada Mall is now looking at adding residential into the mix in their site over time. So the next question is near and mid and long-term targets for population growth in Newmarket. So I think the simplest way to put it for now is the last 10 years, and I would say the next 10 years, you'll see around 1,000 to 1,500 people added per year. You can literally do the math then, right? So we're at about 91,000 right now. So in 10 years, we'll be at about 101,000, maybe 115,000. And the outlook on the long term, I've heard people, and I'll be very blunt, I've heard people say, well, what's the max that Newmarket can grow to? I think I've heard it's like 120,000. That's all Newmarket can grow to. I know that people don't usually love the idea of growth, but if we want to be honest and realistic with ourselves, I suspect somebody in New York City in 1950 said, "Oh, I think it's probably at its limit now, isn't it?" The world and the GTA is going to change over time, and so 50 years from now, who knows? Maybe Newmarket will be 200, 300,000 people. But again, the key for me is avoiding 0% growth or negative growth. I think that's very difficult in an economy and very impactful on home prices in a negative way, but controlled growth going forward. And again, I would say targeting between 1% and 2% growth is very manageable, supports the local economy. You have the time and the ability to get infrastructure in to support it. And it doesn't overwhelm the community. Growth of 4%, 6%, and 9% that some communities experience, I think, is very difficult on the community, very difficult to plan for and have infrastructure for. So I hope that's helpful in terms of thinking about growth. The Mulock Park. So the Mulock Park, as we know, is on is at the site of the Mulock House on the northwest corner of Mulock and Yonge. It abuts the park. There's a small park, the Bond Park, which is to the west of the Mulock property. It will be integrated into the park. So it will go as far west as that park, and it abuts a street that I can't remember the name of, I'm sorry to say, but a small cul-de-sac, and that's where it stops on the western edge. But otherwise, it's about a 15 in total. We're probably going to end up getting a small 1 to 2 acre stand of green space trees to the northern edge of the park, and then combining it with the park to the west. The full area will be getting close to 15 acres, and it's going to again be an exceptional space. I'm very excited about seeing it roll out and built for the community. I will say this in case anybody's wondering: the use for the house has not been fully established. We hope to have that established within the next year, maybe even within this year, but within the next 12 months, so that we can start planning to move it forward, hopefully in lockstep with the park development, but if not, slightly just behind schedule to the park development. Someone says that growth is good, but growth equals more traffic, which equals more speeders. It is. It's true. I mean, growth is challenging, and it's a conversation topic I'm engaged in every day, literally. Again, I will stand by this. I know there's an old saying that says that every person that moves to a town, let's say Newmarket, every person that moves to Newmarket wants to be the last person to move to town. But it's the bottom line is we might as well just to manage the town responsibly, we have to plan for what the future holds, and the future holds growth. I know some people don't want to hear it, but that's the simple truth of it. And we're actually at the lower end of growth in Newmarket, in the GTA. So we've got fairly modest growth levels for the GTA, but we know the massive growth that's coming to the GTA, and in the next 20 to 30 years, you're talking about a couple million people, almost 2 million people, more than 2 million people. And so everybody's going to manage some of that growth. This is an incredibly, the good news is that people want to live here because it's an incredible place to live. The challenging part is you've got to manage that growth. More traffic equals more speeders. Well, if you get a lot of traffic, it could slow speeders down. I'm not sure we want I don't think we want congestion or speeders. So the goal is to try to find a way down that path. But we try to manage the speeding as best we can. I can tell you that in general, speeding is a problem, but if you do the traffic studies, Often you'll find that the speeds are not outrageously higher than the allowed speeds. They are in some places, and we're addressing them. And the other part is that there's a lot of really new innovations that are going to help with that. I personally believe, and whether you like this or not, some people feel it's like surveillance, but I think in 10 years from now, there'll be, every new street that's built or every street that's rebuilt will have sensors in the curbs. And, there's going to be automated speed enforcement, ASE, in front of all schools in the next 5 years. And that's going to slow a lot of people down, I can assure you. So I am for slower cars. I'm for addressing speeding. And for people who will yell and scream when the time comes that it's a cash grab, it's not, but it will be effective. People will slow down when they get issued tickets through the mail automatically when they speed past a school. And I say, great, let's do it and let's slow them down. So that's going to be a big win coming in the near future. That's going to start, we're starting to pilot it now. So Terry asks, does the town have any short-term plans to expand the library facilities post-COVID? So they're doing some exciting work over at the library. For one thing, they're in the process of searching out a new CEO. And so that's always exciting. You look to bring somebody with vision and somebody with some great ideas and experience from other locations, possibly, that can bring us some thoughts about that. They're also going through a strategic plan update. It's been 6 years since at least 6 years, maybe even 7, since they updated their strategic plan. And that strategic plan is going to look at those options. Libraries are changing, very quickly. Technology is changing how we use information, books, and libraries very quickly. And so I would suggest that books may not be the cornerstone of the future experience of a library, for example, but that strategic plan is going to explore that. And perhaps what we may be looking at is some outposts, some satellite libraries locations, possibly in some existing facilities, possibly in a new space. But that process will help us understand that. But I do see expanded library options for sure. And whether that means facility or not, the strategic plan and the new CEO will tell us that. But we'll go through a process where we need to learn, right? I want to examine all the best practices out there. What are some of the communities doing that are doing outstanding things in this area? But libraries are doing new and different things, and it's pretty interesting. Our library has this great new thing called the Lendery. So you can go to the library and you can check out a drill with your library card. You can borrow a coffee urn if you're having an event where, so people don't have to have a coffee urn for every 3 years, or, if you're not that handy and doing that much around the house like me, then you don't need a drill as often. Why not borrow one from your library? So there's so much change coming to technology and libraries. I think it's going to be very exciting to go through this strategic plan and see where it brings us to. So David Elms, the town refuses to deal with this. The only true way to deal with speeders are speed bumps. Why refuse this? And then what's the town's opinion on Highway 413? So, hey, look, I'm happy to have the conversation, David. I just don't agree with you. And I think it's important to be able to disagree openly, and I'm not going to try to pretend, otherwise. I don't think speed humps are the answer to speeding, actually. I think automated speed enforcement is. I think speed mitigation measures like chicanes and, where you can narrow the road, pedestrian islands, but speed bumps are very disruptive to the houses nearby from sound. We've learned this from many communities, so you get a lot of complaints. The roads that typically want speed bumps because they've got a challenging situation are roads that carry a disproportionately higher number of emergency vehicles, and emergency vehicles do not like speed bumps. They're hard on our $1 million fire trucks. They slow our fire and our paramedic response down. Is there a place for a speed bump occasionally? Yeah, but I believe we should look at almost every other measure. I know, David, you'll disagree with me. Others will disagree with me. I believe from everything I've read and studied and examined that there are other ways to do this. And I actually believe that technology is going to finally take this debate away from us over time. But I will go back to that. I think there's some exciting progress to be made in the very near future around automated speed enforcement. And a thing called AMPS. I can get into that, but that allows us to just send a ticket directly to the house from the town, not from the police, and it's not court challengeable. And some people might not like that, but it's going to make this a lot more effective in terms of slowing speed down, at least starting with our schools. The town's opinion on Highway 413, the town has no official opinion on Highway 413. I can tell you, I personally have I'm not fully convinced about that there isn't a better or different option. I think that, and I guess the thing I would say is that if a government or governments only have, let's say, $3 billion, pick a number, it's a hypothetical number, $5 billion, $10 billion to spend, I think it's probably better spend on higher order transit than major highways at this point, or regional corridors that can carry significant numbers of people but aren't as expensive and impactful as a highway. Now, that doesn't mean we're going to have some highway expansion with the kind of growth the GTA is seeing, and the 413 in part may prove that, or perhaps a very significant regional corridor. But I think that jury's still out, and I know that the federal government has decided to do its own, what you would think of as an EA or an environmental review on that will look at some of the arguments, the merits of needing to do it or not needing to do it, and what the alternatives are, and the environmental impacts of doing so. But I am a little hesitant on it myself. And happy to if anybody wants to type in a follow up, I'm happy to say more if I haven't covered everything fully.
Well, there's no more questions. I'll try and sneak one question in, John. Something that's close to my heart. There was some news this morning, I think it was 680 News perhaps, that the province might start to open outdoor recreation facilities before the June 2nd. You have any insights on that to share?
I have some insights. I don't know if it's going to happen. I would be very happy if it did happen. Dr. Kurji, our medical officer of health, supported. I asked him before I moved it because I want expert advice, and I want the medical officer of health's position. But I moved a motion at York Region over a week ago, saying asking the province to open outdoor recreation before the June 2nd date. I believe it's very safe. Nothing right now is perfectly safe, but it's very safe, and I think it's very necessary. Particularly for children, these are some hard weeks we're going through. I have an 11 and a 13-year-old myself, and so I believe that. I called the premier. I texted him. He called me back, and I expressed the same thing, and I expressed it to our Minister of Health and our MPP for this area, Christine Elliott. The premier and Christine Elliott expressed to me a little more than a week ago that they did not see that as likely to happen. But a week's a long time in politics and in COVID, and perhaps they're revisiting, and perhaps some of the medical tables are expressing that they're not as worried as they were. And frankly, the data's changed. To be fair to the decision makers at the province, the data's changed considerably for the better since then as well. And so maybe they're going, maybe we can do this. So I believe it's supportable. I believe the data supports it. I believe the majority of the medical establishment would support it. Certainly our medical officer of health does. And so it's my hope that it will occur, but we will see.
All right, thank you, sir. So I understand that the mayor of Newmarket, UK has been able to join us right now. So that's very good. So we will go to him. And I'm actually very pleased that this makes it now a very historic day, now that we have 3 mayors of Newmarket online today. For people who didn't know, our MP Tony Van Bynen was also the former mayor of Newmarket. So that's really exciting. I will let Dick introduce the mayor of UK Newmarket.
Thank you, Naki. And today we're glad to have with us Michael Jefferys, the mayor of Newmarket, UK. Michael is a councillor in UK since 1999. He's been on the council, and their process over there is you are on the council, and then you are nominated and voted in to be the mayor's position, 1-year term. And Michael has been on for, as I mentioned, 3 terms And the other thing, Mayor Taylor was comparing some of the comparables between the two towns, and actually the two mayors have a comparable. They're both from the academic background. Michael was a assistant principal at one of the local Newmarket Academy in the UK. So with that, I'll turn it over to Michael. And Michael, thank you for joining us.
Well, thank you very much, Richard. And thank you for the very kind invitation, and congratulations on your 30th anniversary. I do apologise for being late. I somehow got the time difference totally wrong. And I got a message from Richard, are you joining us? And hurriedly prepared myself to get here. I'm sorry, very late. So I won't make that mistake again, because I do hope that I will be able to join you on future occasions. I'm wearing my chain of office. I don't normally go around with a great chain around my neck, but on official occasions I wear it. And of course, one of my roles is to represent Newmarket in a civic capacity. So I'm going to talk a little bit about Newmarket. It's a very different town to Newmarket, Ontario. It's about 60 miles northeast of London, 13 miles to the east of Cambridge, the big university town. Newmarket is home to approximately 20,000 people and 3,000 horses. Indeed, it is known as the home of horse racing. We have 2 racecourses in the town and training yards throughout the town. Horse walks wind their way through the town centre to the training grounds to the east and west of the town. Newmarket wasn't always associated with horse racing. People have been travelling through this area since Stone Age times along an ancient route called the Icknield Way. And 2 miles to the west of the town is Devil's Dyke, a 7-mile long, 10-metre high earthworks, the largest Anglo-Saxon earthwork in England. Modern Newmarket probably began in 1604, when King James I visited the town. The landscape surrounding the town was perfect for hunting and hawking. He became a frequent visitor and built a palace here. Unfortunately, little remains of the original palace. However, King James's grandson, Charles II, had loved the town as a boy. In 1665, he instituted the Town Plate, the oldest horse race in the world, which has been run annually ever since. The 19th century brought a golden age of horse racing, heightened by the arrival of the railway in 1848, allowing owners to travel between London and Newmarket and thousands of visitors to enjoy a day at the races. But Newmarket is more than just horse racing. We have a twice-weekly market, as you might expect, and a thriving high street, of which there was a picture that Mayor John Taylor showed. The town serves the needs of the surrounding villages and is a centre for health, education, retail, light industry and leisure facilities. Today, there is talk of a 3rd all-weather racecourse, and despite the closing of the racecourses for spectators, racing has continued through the pandemic. We're looking to improve the attractiveness of our town centre, which has been really dormant for over a year, but we remain optimistic even during these difficult times. We expect Newmarket to soon return to the busy and attractive town that we know and love. I do hope in the future that we'll be able to build on this initial link between the two towns, although despite our common clock towers, we, I think, are quite very different towns. But I would love to come and visit you in Newmarket, Ontario, and I'll be pleased to answer any questions that you may have.
Thank you very much, Mayor Jefferys. Richard, should I continue, or you have something, final words?
No, I'd just like to thank the mayor for joining us. Sorry about the any mess up in the timing, but to show the global aspect of the club we are and the connections we have worldwide. And as our membership here in Newmarket, Ontario, once this pandemic is over, like to get on a plane and travel the world, I'm sure one of the places they would like to drop in is on Newmarket, UK. So I'm sure that they would love to see the character of the town. And as a reader and having followed Dick Francis in his writings, and always Newmarket was the center of his writings. So thank you very much for joining us. And I'm sure we will communicate more in the future. Thank you very much. Mackie?
Yeah, so
Mackie,
we do have.
is it okay if I just, Mackie, can I just say a few words as well?
Please, yeah, please go ahead.
Sorry, Mayor Jefferys, first of all, thank you for joining us, and you inspired me. I ran over and put on my chain so we could both be formal and recognize this important occasion. And I just want to say that we had a quick email, and like yourself, I hope we can continue to stay in touch and find other reasons to have a relationship between the two Newmarkets. And as that relationship grows, I too hope to visit, and then we'll be able to look back in the state and thank the Provost Club on their 30th anniversary for inspiring a stronger relationship. So it's been a real pleasure to meet you over Zoom and to have an email exchange, and we'll hopefully keep that up and find ways to work on other ideas or share other moments, and maybe one day I'll be able to join you at the oldest horse race in the UK. So
that would be excellent.
Thank you very much.
Very good, sir. We do have one question for Mayor Jefferys. Someone would like to know the growth rate in Newmarket, England.
I was very interested in the discussion that Mayor John Taylor was talking about growth rates. And I think it's quite different. You're a part of a great city, whereas we are very much outside in the countryside. But that debate goes on. There is a need for housing in Newmarket, and there was a debate for about 10 years before it was finally approved to build just 400 houses. But they are needed. We have the same problem of young people not being able to afford housing. And I personally would like to address it, though at my level of government, we don't have that much influence. So what is the growth rate? That's an interesting point. But once those 400 houses are built, which I expect them to be over the next year, we're talking about an increase in population of 5%. But that may well be over a period of 10 years. So we're talking perhaps 0.5% a year. And there is a real tension between the needs of the racing industry and the needs of the town itself. The town wouldn't be where it is without horse racing. And so we do have to bear that in mind. But obviously, with all debates like this, you get two ends of the spectrum. Those who want lots of growth, lots of houses, and those who want none at all. And it's about striking a balance, which I think is what Mayor John Taylor was looking towards as well.
Thank you. Somebody was saying they did not catch what your current population is today.
It's 20,000.
20,000.
Current population, yes.
Thank
and
you so
3,000 horses.
All right. There being no further questions, I would now like to invite David for his closing remarks.
Okay, very interesting. We have two mayors and two things for me to talk about, I suppose. For those of us in the Newmarket area, the post-COVID growth looks very, very interesting. I was quite interested to hear about all the developments, particularly the recreational and that sort of development that's going forward. It's really fascinating to see how we're combining and making contacts between the two Newmarkets and the connections that UK has been making with Canada through Provost. I think this is very, very interesting from my perspective. And I'd like to say that with COVID, we definitely seem to be reaching a very great turning point here in Canada. I know in the UK, you're a little further ahead than us, but we can look to you as to what we might expect in the future. South Africa and Australia, of course, Australia is much further ahead, and it's a totally different experience with COVID than we have. But I'm very much looking forward to the future. I thank Mayor Taylor and Mayor Jefferys, and I hope we'll have some future connections.
Thank you, Dave. Sunny?
Well, what can I say? With two current mayors and one former mayor joining us, it reflects the hard work of the management team in putting this together, especially Dick Furlong for his connection with Global. We, as a club, I think we're doing really well, especially during COVID. We're able to take advantage of the technology and have people around the world and across Canada joining us. I thank you for all the speakers, all the kind words, and we hope to be meeting in person in a month or so, hopefully. Every day I look at the case number from the UK and use that as an inspiration. Like, if we get to that point, we can go to the pub, which is quite important for us, retirees. So every day I look at the number and say, we're getting there. We're getting closer and closer. So with that, thanks again. And it's safe to say that in June, we will meet again on Zoom. Thank you. And with that, the meeting is adjourned.